Thanks for joining me for episode 3 of Albums of the Week. This week I'm going to be concentrating on some anti-static solutions. So as you might be able to see, I have a cork mat on my turntable now. I've got one for my other turntables. And I also invested in a Milty anti-static gun. Apparently pulling the trigger releases positive ions, and letting the trigger go releases negative. And by the time you've done all that, pointing it at your record, there should be no more static. So let's give this a try. Ooh, I like how this Jimi Hendrix Experience Freedom from the Atlanta Pop Festival, I like how it ships in a anti-static sleeve, so that's a good sign. And then let's see if there's any signs of static. Yeah, it does have a little static on it. So let's go and set it on the platter, side A. Oh, this should be cool. Yep, I can hear the static already coming through the amp, so I'm going to get this turning. And we're going to hit it with the brush for a couple of revolutions. And if you all ever see me performing something that, like, I could be doing it better or I'm doing it wrong, just let me know. Learning how to eliminate static and otherwise take care of your records and stuff can be a learning experience. So the instructions say 12 inches or 300 millimeters away from the surface, so I'm going to call it about like that. And then I've heard people say that they point it at a particular part of the record and then let it go for like at least a revolution, okay? So let's give this a try. Alright, and then we're going to go negative. I mean, that should have done wonders, so hopefully this is going to be a pretty quiet example. And away we go. I'll see you back for my report. So how much of a baller are you if you begin your entire concert in the wrong key and then adjust and go on to perform an amazing concert? I provided that audio clip for a couple of reasons. Number one, there is a producer's note on the back of this LP artwork that says that the multi-track recording of this concert began shortly after the beginning of Watchtower. So what you hear at the beginning is the road crews audio recording, and then it's blended into the multi-track. And for me, that was a very cool and somewhat alarming experience. I thought that the sound quality when the LP first came on might be really tough listening experience, but it turns out to be really good. There are times during this concert recording where the band is not playing all that tight, but it definitely gives this very authentic feel, and most of the time they're jamming remarkably well. And there's just a couple of times where you hear that they're off from each other a little bit, and I have a lot of sympathy. For that. Like, it can be really hard to hear what you're doing in a live experience. Totally cool cover. Get 6 images of Jimmy, half blue, half red. Oh my goodness. The moment where he makes everyone stand up before he'll play Purple Haze is pretty cool. Hey Joe played at lightning speed Foxy Lady and All Along the Watchtower are all enough in their own right to justify purchase here. This is a cool concert. Alright, it's time for some Tauntaun. This is a Denver area thrash metal project between Chris Fogel and my friend Ian O'Doherty. I know thrash pretty well, growing up in 1980s Bay Area, basically the home of thrash, and this album stands up. I would include this amongst my favorites. So I'm about to drop the needle, and I'll be back to report on my experience. You should check these guys out on Bandcamp. They are cool. Alright, so Tauntaun, back from the 2009-2010 period. Good news, this LP and that their single are both available at Bandcamp. I wholeheartedly, fully recommend them. You can pick up the album for about 12 bucks and the single for $6.66. That's always a fun total to have in your shopping cart and to see on your receipts. Though I don't really ever hear people getting superstitious over the other number of the beast. You know there are two. There are two numbers of the beast in the Bible. But anyway, we digress just a little bit. Yes, I do know and like Ian, but he deserves musical recognition. He has a lot of breadth and depth. He does what he does very well, and so far I've got like cello-driven albums that he's been involved in, thrash, punk. He does his own stuff under the title Aeolian, and that can just like be anything from like industrial music to kind of like, I don't know, more poppy, almost like a postal delivery service. So, and he's a multi-channel artist. Some of the Ian Cook albums have come out in 5.1 surround, his own Aeolian stuff too. So, unfortunately, Tauntaun has never come out in multi-channel, but it kicks unholy in stereo. So I definitely recommend checking them out on Bandcamp. You can pick up vinyl versions of their albums or download as well. And I don't know, this self-titled Tauntaun album may be a contender for Album of the Week. We'll see. Happy Monday, everybody. I'm just trying to get my week started the right way, so I'm going to throw on a few records and then get to uploading this video for you. This week starts off with DJ Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince. He's the DJ, I'm the rapper. My friend Del Vane gave me this album on cassette for my birthday. It must have been maybe my 10th or 11th birthday. Remember that day at Scandia? Anyway, I'm very, very curious to see how well this album has aged, especially given Will Smith's controversy at the Academy Awards. So, you know, we'll see. This is an original pressing, Jive Records, 1988, I believe. And it's a double LP. Interesting that they got greenlit for a double LP, but no gatefold. So you get the DJ on one side and the rapper on the other, but it sure would be cool if you could open this up. Yet you can't. I'm going to throw this on, and then I'll be back to give some brief thoughts, and we'll keep rolling along. Alright, so DJ Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince, he's the DJ, I'm the rapper. I guess it's aged sort of okay. I like DJ Jazzy Jeff's scratching and his breakdowns, and I like Ready Rock's beatboxing. Will Smith here is, you know, young Will Smith. This material is kind of cute, it's kind of nostalgic. There are tracks where like a story is told, Nightmare on My Street, and that ended up being a formula that Will Smith stuck to closely in his career, like What Made Me Think I Could Beat Mike Tyson type of songs. Parents Just Don't Understand is definitely the song that I remember best from being a kid. It's still funny, it's still nostalgic, it still reminds me of like trying to get away with stuff as a kid, and it's kind of a overblown story. All in all, I would say that if you were a fan of this record as a kid, can't hurt to pick it up. It's very up. It's got those Philly hits, those, you know, sampled trumpets that just became ubiquitous in R&B music for a while. This has late 80s just plastered all over it in kind of a cool way. So anyway, I enjoyed this listen. Not sure if it'll stay in rotation, but I'm glad to have it. Alright, so then that brings me to my next record. It's the quad album of the week. We're going to do Bob Dylan, Nashville Skyline. This is an SQ LP, so I'm going to have to fire up the quad station over on the other side of the room and sit in the sweet spot for a little while and, you know, just take it all in. Lay, lady, lay, and all that. And I'll be back. Alright, Bob Dylan, Nashville Skyline, SQ Quad. My copy is a bit noisy. It's probably been played a lot. The record settled into being quieter toward the middle and end of the sides, so I'm thinking that maybe somebody dropped needle on their preferred cuts, or something to that effect. Anyway, it's a cool record. This is definitely a unique timbre for Bob Dylan vocally. As far as I can tell, I'm not the greatest Bob Dylan historian by any means. I haven't heard all of his material, but this stands out to me as being particularly bluegrassy. You get some nice guitar and banjo kind of dueling movements situated very nicely in the surrounds for this one. So very cool, and then like I said, very unique vocal delivery for Mr. Dylan. It's almost like maybe he was spinning records by certain artists in certain genres, like maybe Hank Williams or something, and just really got inspired to adopt some of that approach. So I really like it. It is an interesting quad mix, satisfying at most points, but they do change their methodologies, and I'm not really crazy about tracks that favor drums heavily in the surrounds, and there is a track or two like that here. Anyway, very cool. I hope that someday somebody will put it out on SACD. So talking about Sony Japan, Michael Dutton, that would be amazing. In the meantime, if you want to officially listen to this in quad, analog's the only way to go for now. So I'm going to finish up my record listening week, even though I'm a day late. I want to get in an entry to the Quest for the Best albums from around the world. This is from Kenya. This is the West Bridge Band, and I have already heard this record once. I want to put it back on. I can tell you that it is very cool. I'm eager to put it back on, and it features a lead instrument of one of the band members' invention. Like, this guy made an instrument, invented it, and then you know, this record features it quite predominantly. So a very, very cool listen, and I can't wait to throw it back on, and I'll be right back to wrap up this week's video. Alright, so this is going to wrap up this week of albums. I just had my second listen to the West Bridge Band, Kibera Espera, Kenya. I'm sure I mispronounced that. Like I said, the leader of this band invented the litungu, a 9-stringed instrument, and it's featured prominently on this album. It is ultra distinct. It's one-of-a-kind invention, so very, very cool. I know that I mentioned earlier that I'm toying around with the idea of like doing the album of the week, and I'll make it easy on myself so I don't have to like jog my memory to go back through all of the albums for this week. But this one would win it anyway. Not only is it a strong contender for the Quest for the Best album from Kenya, because it's the only one I know of so far, this is the top contender. So just to give that series a shot in the arm, we'll make this the album of the week. It is super cool. I found it at a local record shop in the nearby city of Oakland, and I sure am glad I picked this up. It's such an enjoyable listen. I don't know how often it will see repeats, but it definitely is a winner. Super interesting, and I think the coolest thing to come of picking up this album is I happened to notice that it is produced by a man named Ian Brennan, so I went and looked him up. And it looks like he has done field recordings from numerous countries: Cambodia, Ghana, Portugal, amongst many others. So I am definitely interested in seeking some more of his discography. If he has already gone around the world, maybe to places that don't have a recording industry, and has captured unique sounds, then he sounds like a prime candidate to be one of my featured producers in the quest for the best recordings around the world. So I'll be looking more into him, and I'll be sure to let you all know what I find. So I hope you enjoyed this week's Albums of the Week video. Please don't forget to like if you like what I do, subscribe, ring the notification bell, share videos, leave comments. Let me know if you have albums from Kenya that you prefer to this one, or just albums that you want to suggest. If you have comments about any of the other albums from this week, tangents, memories, nostalgia, recommendations for what to listen to next, I sure appreciate your comments. And until next time, live life in stereo, quad, surround, immersive, whatever works for you.